Hello and welcome to another chat, which I used to call the Sanity Pulpit for some strange reason, but because they're based on the book that I've written called The Lawless Way, let's call them the Lawless Way chats. Call them what we like. Anyway, my name is Philip Bradbury. That's what I was called at the start, and I'm happy to stick with that. So, I'd like to talk about freedom because it seems to be something that's being taken away from us at the moment. We're all talking about it. I'm not free to leave my house. I am not free to choose whether I have vaccinations. I'm not free to choose whether I have a tracking app on my phone. I'm not free to do this and that and the next thing. And there is this perception, there is a lot of talk that our freedoms are being taken away and that our rights to freedom are being taken away. And let us just get clear on this. We have no rights to freedom. We have no rights to sovereignty over our bodies. We have no rights, full stop. There is nowhere in the sky etched that says that Philip Bradbury has the right to sovereignty over his body and he can choose whether he's injected with this vaccination poisons, which gives him the virus. Funny. Anyway, but there are no rights. I do not have a right of freedom. I do not have a right to my property. Rights do not exist. They are simply aspirations. Because if they were rights, we would have them. So let us look at history for a start. We can go back 4,500 years. There is the story that the Egyptians used slaves to build the pyramids. There may have been other methods of making them. However, the Egyptians certainly had slaves. And all through history, we have had slaves. Henry VIII and all of those people during Elizabeth's reign and all the rest back then, they had absolute right over people and their body. And Henry VIII and his entourage could just walk into any village and take any woman for as long as they liked. And they could take anyone's property. And they did. And the Bishop of Wolsey got his Hampton Court taken off him because he wouldn't do what Henry asked. He had no rights, even though he was the top man under Henry. So, and right now, our rights are being taken, supposedly. Our freedom is being taken. But the fact is, we do not have a right to it. We simply have an aspiration. We would like to be free, so we say. We would like to have the freedom to choose whether someone lets me wander in the park or not, whether I can drive my car, whether I can do this and that and the next thing. Because the problem is, our freedom has never been. And for as long as we have striven to fight for our rights for freedom, we have lost the fight. Because there is no right to fight for. Very poetic. When we stop expecting there to be a right, to have this, to have that, and we can set aside the possibility that there are no rights and stand in a new possibility that there just is. This just is right now. It is just is that the Australian government is trying to enforce mandatory vaccinations on everyone. They've done it on all medical workers as of yesterday, and it's happening in Canada and everywhere else. It just is that people are locked in their houses, essentially, with exceptions, obviously. So these so-called rights to freedom don't exist. There is simply what is. There is what is going on right now. I cannot stand on the top of the mountain just up the road here and stare at the view. It'll cost me $1,000 because Mr. Policeman will tell me I am not allowed to stop and stare. But I don't have a right to stop and stare. I just have an aspiration that that would be really nice. Because when I stop expecting the right to be able to do it, then what is left is simply what is. And what is the inability to do what I would like to do. And when we can accept what is, that is the place from which we can take action. Because we cannot fight anything. And Mother Teresa said this. She said, "Do not invite me to an anti-war protest. I will not go. But invite me to a peaceful protest, a protest for peace. I will be there." And the Course of Miracles talks about the same thing. We cannot fight anything. We can only aspire to something. We can look for what we do want. And when we stop fighting, because fighting always loses, the only thing we can do about this current civilization, if you like, our current society, the rules and all of that, if we don't like them, we can't get rid of them by fighting them. As Bookmeister Fuller said, the only way to change society is not to fight it and change it, but to create a new one. And when we accept that what is, as Byron Katie might talk about in her four laws, is it? Four rules, Byron Katie's. When we accept what is, that is the place we can start to then turn what is into what could be, our aspiration, our hope, our dream, just whatever we would like to have in our lives. Because when I fight something, I'm fighting a negative, and negatives do not exist. See, let us think about an old house that's been locked up, and it's falling to pieces, but it's dark, and when we go inside, it's dark. But as soon as we turn the light on, it's light. The darkness doesn't say, "Hey, hang on a minute, I've been here 20 years. Just let me get used to the light. Let me just go slowly." No. Light brings light immediately. There is no waiting. As soon as we bring light to darkness, darkness has gone. In fact, darkness does not exist. Darkness is simply the absence of light. And when you bring light, then darkness goes. So darkness is a no thing. It does not exist. And whatever we're fighting, again, is a no thing. It does not exist. So whatever this dreadful society, these politicians, these scientists, these medical people that we are arguing with, or we're disagreeing with, or we're objecting to, whatever they're bringing to us, that is a nothing. And you cannot fight a nothing, because fighting a nothing will always lose, because there is nothing to fight. I could go on in circles. So when we try and fight the nothing that is, apparently, we're wasting our time. But what is not wasting our time is looking for the light, is reaching out for the torch, bringing a light into this dark room. And as Bookmeister Fuller put it, we can't fight the existing regime. It just won't work. We simply have to bring in a new society, a new civilization, a new way of being, a new way of relating to each other. So let us, rather than go on about our rights being impinged, our freedom has been taken away, we don't have rights. We don't have any rights at all. All we have is what is, and we have what we would like to be is. And if we step into the possibility of a new way of being, a new way of relating, that can be the light. And there is actually no other way. And if you think of Martin Luther King, he didn't fight the black oppression. He promoted black power. And that is where we need to change. We do not fight the oppression, the badness, the 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 lack of freedom, that our rights that have gone. We can simply promote that which we want. To stand in a new society already, even before it happens. Let's imagine it. Let's share the image. Let's share the dream, the possibility. And let's share that amongst each other and let it grow, because as Jesus said, for those of you who are religious, when 3 or more of you are gathered in my name, I will be there. Which is basically saying, in my perception, because the Bible is all perception, in my perception, it's Jesus saying, when you share a dream, when you share an aspiration, when you share a prayer, it will grow by the sharing, by more than the number of people that are there. So if 2 people share it, it's more than doubled. If 3 people share it, it's more than trebled. I don't know the geometric, trigonomic, that mathematical formula by which it grows, but it certainly grows way more than the number of people that share it. So when we share our aspiration, when we stand in a new place of this is where we are, even before we are there, let us stand in it, in our minds, in our just our beingness. Stop objecting to things, stop worrying about what terrible things are. Just be with what is and start sharing that. So I welcome you. Please, you're welcome. You've got my, I've got my website. I have email, and I'm on Facebook and a whole lot of other social media. Please share your vision, and I will share it back with the rest of the planet. And we can all start standing in a new place of possibilities. From this moment forward, let us not talk about rights. Let us talk about what is and what can be and what will be. A new dawning could be today. So thank you for listening. Bless you.